think we might be in for the best weekend of the NFL season so far. Sunday slate is awesome. We have I think loser goes home game on Thursday Night Football to kick off the week this week between the Rams and 49ers. But we got some big games this week to break down, Kev. And your last show before you head out to Australia for a nice little 2-week vacation. Will you be able to watch NFL football over there, wherever? I don't know, east, west, where are we going?
The west coast of Australia, I believe I will be able to. It's just going to be at like 7, 8 in the morning.
There you
So
go. Well,
some
that'll be an
eggs and
interesting
eggs.
way. Yeah, I mean, no alcoholic started drinking in the afternoon. You gotta wake up and start going. So that'll be a fun couple Sundays there for you for the Eagles over in Australia. But big week here. It's sad that you'll probably miss it. I think you'll probably be doing a couple more important things. But we got some big games to cover. And to recap last week real quick, a really good week from you. 11-7, 4-1 straight up, 2-3 against the spread, 3-2 over under, 0-1 on your lock of Lions -3.5. They win by 3. 1-0 on your dog of the Seahawks. Those freaking Seahawks still staying in it. They get the outright win versus Cardinals, and then 1-0 on your touchdown of Josh Jacobs. We hit our first touchdown parlay last week. David Montgomery for me, Josh Jacobs for you. Our first time that we both went 1-0 since we started doing that. 8-10 week for me, 2-3 straight up, 1-4 against the spread, 3-2 on the over under, 0-1 on my lock of the Bills -4, 1-0 on my dog of the Chargers +4 against the Chiefs. And as we just touched on, 1-0 on the touchdown of David Montgomery. But we have a big week to break down. Thursday game. We have 3 big games at 4 o'clock on Sunday. So 1 o'clock, if you got like family Christmas parties, which I do, that's a good time to have them this weekend. Get those out of the way. And then some big boy football at 4 o'clock. And then we have a really good Sunday night game as well with the Packers and Seahawks. But we'll start on Thursday night. And I think this is a loser leaves town type of game. Correct me if I'm wrong, but do you think either of these teams have a chance to make the playoffs if they lose this game? Rams 7-6 at the 49ers, who are 6-7. 8:15 kick Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. Niners 2-point favorite here. Over under is coming in at 48.5. Pretty high number there for a Thursday night game.
Yeah, I'm going Rams winning this one 27-23. So the Rams +2 over 48.5. Last week the Niners looked really good. Maybe people are thinking they're fixed and back, or did they just play the Bears? I think 2 things can be true. The Niners did look great last week. Purdy threw for 325. The duo of Kittle and Jennings looked great. And then obviously you still have Debo there, who hasn't played great this season, but he is a great player and can have a great game at any time. And it also just doesn't matter who's playing running back for them. The Niners always just whoever's playing running back has a huge day. And then also, as we saw last week, the Rams can score. They can score a ton of points, and that's obviously always the case when you have Stafford at QB, Kupp and Nakua, and then McVay calling up the plays. And then the Niners actually have moved the ball really well this year up and down the field, but they rank 23rd in red zone offense and then also 31st in red zone defense, while the Rams rank 13th and 8th in those categories. I think that's the difference here. The Rams are able to finish drives, and I don't think the Niners will be able to probably settle in for some field goals or even go in for it on 4th down if they need to. And I think, as you said earlier, the Niners' playoff hopes are over with a loss here, and while the Rams' playoff hopes stay alive.
Yeah, big one to start off the week. I think if the Rams lose this one, I think it's going to be an uphill climb for them as well. We'll see what the Commanders do over the next few weeks, but I think that last spot is most likely going to come down to Commanders, Rams, and potentially the Niners if they find a way to win this game, because you got to look at the Vikings and Packers most likely penciled in there in those wild card spots. We'll see what happens with the Lions over the next few weeks. They still have to play the Vikings, but no one's catching them. It's kind of like a 3-horse race, because I think the Cardinals are kind of out of it now as well. But depending on what the Seahawks do at 8:20 on Sunday night this week, the loser maybe has a chance still. It's a slight chance, but I think they're probably below 5. I would be surprised if it was any higher there, like mathematically. Niners enter this one plus 1,000 to make the playoffs. So 10-1. So they're still saying even going into this game, a long shot. Rams plus 150. So, which is a little bit puzzling to me since the Niners are the favorite in this game. Like you would think the Rams would be favorite. So I don't know if I'm reading too much into this one with the betting odds, but the Rams offense, they looked dominant last week. That was one of the funner games of the NFL season. And you see what they can be when they're clicking at full strength. But that was a tough game. That was a battle all the way down to the last second there. Now that they have to go on the road, I know it's only to San Fran, but still on the road for a divisional game on a short week. I just think it's a better spot for the 49ers that I think definitely picked up some confidence and some momentum last week. And they're probably saying, all right, we got some guys back now. We're still dealing with some injuries, but we're good enough to run the table here and potentially go 10-7 and find our way into the playoffs. So Niners have no room for slip up. I think the Rams have a little bit more margin for error. So I think there's a little bit more onus on this one for the 49ers. I think it's a tight game, but I do think that they get by and win this one 27-23. So I'll go Niners -2 over under 48, over 48.5 for my pick there. All right, we go to Sunday now, skipping the 1 o'clock window in its entirety. Even like when I was like looking at potential bets for this weekend, not much I like there at the 1 o'clock slate. But this is an awesome one. Potential Super Bowl preview. 10-3 Bills go to Detroit to play the 12-1 Lions. 425 kick on CBS. Lions -2.5 over under 53.5 there.
Yeah, this game should be awesome. I can see it going either way as both teams, as we know, are really good. The Lions are probably the most balanced team in football, and I think I say it every week, but they can just beat you in so many different ways. And then on the Bills, Josh Allen can single-handedly beat a team in multiple ways as well. I don't have a ton on this game as I think either team can win it, but I'll go with the Lions because they have been so consistent and they have had some close calls as of recently, but there still is not a reason to pick against them. And then Dan Campbell does walk the line, the very close line between aggression and stupidity, but it always does seem to work out for him. While Sean McDermott has had multiple games this season where he's made costly errors to close out a game that has potentially cost the Bills some W's. So I'm going Lions 27, Bills 23, Lions -2.5, under 53.5.
Yeah, should be a really fun one here. I think we see an explosion in points in this one. The Bills have put up 30 or more in 10 games this year, and the Lions have put up 30 or more in 6 games this year, but we've seen a couple of times where the Lions have put up 50. That has led to this matchup being between the top 2 scoring teams in the NFL in terms of points per game with the Lions and Bills. So love the over in this spot. I feel like that's a play that everyone's going to be on. But I don't see a scenario where this game isn't up and down high scoring. It's indoors. I think we see some real fireworks in this game. We saw the Bills defense exposed last week too against the Rams, allowing 40+. And it feels like every week we see the Lions get another major injury on their defense. Could be a really like a who has the ball last type of game here. Very important for the Bills, though. If they lose this one, they're probably out of the race for the 1 seed in its entirety. It's still an uphill climb. But if they lose this one for all to four losses, I don't see them catching the Chiefs at all. The Lions lose, not as detrimental since it's an AFC loss. It would be their second loss, depending what the Eagles do as well in the slate. They could be tied for the same record. But with the Eagles, both of their losses would be NFC losses, so the Lions would have the tiebreaker there. So not as important for the Lions as the Bills. But with all that being said, I'm going to take the Lions here at home. I feel like I as I say most weeks, I'm just going to blind bet them against the spread. They haven't hit, I believe, 2 weeks in a row now. So the data is kind of there to say that they're probably due in this spot. I like them at home. I think it could be one of the funner games of the year. I'll go Lions 35, Bills 31, Lions -2.5 over 53.5. Or we head to Philadelphia now, where the Eagles at 11-2, riding a 9-game win streak, host the 10-3 Steelers. 425 kick on Fox. Eagles 5-point favorite. Over under is 43.5.
Yeah, I'm going Steelers winning a close one, 23-21. Steelers +5, over 43.5. This comes down to me. I don't trust Jalen Hurts against this defense. Saquon has been awesome this year, but there is going to come a point where Jalen is going to need to make good throws and decisions consistently against a top defense. And I don't know if he can do that. I picture in this game, TJ Watt getting a huge forced fumble late in the game. The Eagles offense looking static and kind of inconsistent against a very good Steelers defense. The Steelers do lead the league in takeaways with 2.2 per game. And those takeaways, obviously, stop the Eagles from scoring, but it also usually leads to short fields, extra possessions, and even defensive TDs for the Steelers. But the good news, I guess, for the Eagles is I think they can limit the Steelers' offense. Since week 4 against the Bucks, the Steelers defense has not, or the Eagles defense has not let up more than 23 points. And they have played some pretty good offenses in that time, like the Bengals, Ravens, Rams, and Commanders. After the game, I do think there's going to be more questions than answers related to Jalen Hurts and how far he can take this team. He could potentially be the weak link of this Eagles team. And then I also like how the Steelers are 3-0 as road dogs this year. I think it turns to 4-0 here.
My biggest gripe with this Eagles team and this Eagles situation, Eagles fan base says year after year after year, all the fans say, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Okay, we go out, we sign the best running back arguably in the NFL right now. He's leading the league in rushing yards. He's leading he's the potential MVP of the league this year. And he's been as dominant as he could be with the best offensive line in the league. And the Eagles are winning at an impressive clip of 9 games in a row. 9 games in a row the Eagles have won, and fans are still complaining. Teammates are still complaining that they're not throwing the ball well enough. What do you want them to do other than win the game? Like, they could go out this week and they could lose in a shootout, 38-35. Jalen Hurts could go for 350 yards, but then people would say, why didn't we run the ball? If we ran the ball, we would have won. It's like such a lose-lose every single week. I don't understand. They're winning until they lose a game because of the passing game. Then we can have that discussion. But you look at the Bucks game. They didn't really run the ball. They made Jalen go out and throw it a bunch. He turned the football over. Now he's not turning over the football. They're running the ball every week and they're winning. I just don't understand. That is it's just been pissing me off all week. And I've tried not to get as riled up about the Eagles as I used to, but that is pissing me off so much this week. And that has been so annoying to just see on Twitter and everything with the comments. And all that aside, I was very happy to see Jordan Mailata step up and say this, because I was saying it earlier in the week. I was like, we have an 11-2 Eagles team hosting a 10-3 Steelers team, an awesome Pennsylvania matchup here. And everyone's just talking about A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. And Mailata said it today during his media availability. We're moving on. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers this week, not the A.J. Brown and Jalen show. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's it. And I think that's where the focus should be. As I said, this team's riding a 9-game win streak. I don't think they're going to let all this media noise and all this external type of situations get to them. I think the Eagles are flat out the better team. I think that they're going to stick to what's been working for them. And I do think that they are going to hit a few big plays in the passing game. But it's going to be because they've been doing what they've been doing and running the football and winning these games. I think they have the offensive line, too, to neutralize this defense. And the eyes are obviously going to be on the passing game. But inside, I trust the Eagles are going to do what's got them there, get to that 10 straight win, and beat the Steelers at home on Sunday. 27-21, Eagles -5, over 43.5 there. And the Eagles kind of shut some people up, and they moved to 12-2 on the season. And see what happens at that Lions game. But they could be potentially tied for the number 1 overall seed in the NFC come Sunday night. All right, we go to the last Sunday afternoon game before we go to Sunday night. Bucks 7-6 at Chargers 8-5, 4:25 kick on Fox. Chargers -3, over under 45.5. Bucks headed to the West Coast in this situation. I think they can get the outright win here, Kev.
Yeah, I think the Bucks do win this one 28-20, Bucks +3, over 45.5. This is a super interesting game as the Chargers currently have a 2-game lead for the 7th seed in the West, but can still very easily slide up to the 5th seed. The Broncos and Ravens both are 8-5 along with them for those wild card positions. And the Bucks have a 1-game lead in the NFC South and will most likely need to win the division to get into the playoffs. The Bucks defense has not been as good this year as we've grown accustomed to in the previous years under Todd Bowles. With that being said, I'm still not 100% sold on the Chargers offense. While the Bucks offense has impressed this year, ranking in the top 5 in yards and points per game, I like the way Baker has played, and the running game has also really improved a ton this year. I think the Bucks win this game.
Yeah, I really like the Bucks and the way that they've been playing recently. Evans back, Baker playing really well now for the 2nd year in a row. It's a large enough sample size where I think we can just say he's a pretty good quarterback at this rate, kind of like what Jared Goff's been doing. Probably a little bit less of an extent, but I still would rather have the Lions situation than what Baker has. But those two guys, former number one overall picks in new spots, have looked really well over these past couple of years now. But the running back duo of Bucky Irving and Rachaad White, as you touched on, one of the more impressive groups in the league. Chargers, on the other hand, I think we've been seeing more and more as they've played a bunch of primetime games, it feels like, recently. But it's hard to move the ball when you're thrown to Will Dissly, Quentin Johnson. Ladd McConkey was out last week. We're starting to see that get exposed a little bit more and more against some of these better teams. The Chargers do, give them credit, though, find ways to kind of play to their strengths and make these games ugly. They just got to win a couple more of these against these closer teams. I think this Bucs offense, though, has enough pieces to score on offense and put up a little bit too much points for the Chargers to keep up with. I'm going to go Bucs 24, Chargers 20, Bucs +3, winning outright there in the under 45.5. All right, last game of the week, Sunday Night Football. 9-4 Packers travel out west to Seattle to play the 8-5 Seahawks. 8:20 kick, Sunday Night Football on NBC. Packers 3-point favorite, over under 46.5. Potential first-round playoff matchup here as well, Kev. Who do you like in this one?
I like the Packers here, 30-24. Packers -3, over 46.5. I really like this Packers team, and I also kind of just can't stand the Seahawks / Geno Smith. I think this game's going to come down who can take care of the ball, as Geno has 14 TDs and 12 picks in 13 games this year, but he has no picks in his last two, while Jordan Love has 21 TDs, 11 picks in 11 games, but he's had none in the last three. I like Jordan Love a lot more than Geno, and I think Matt LaFleur is also an excellent play caller. And then Josh Jacobs has been a huge factor for this Packers team. He's become a huge part of the offense in both the running and receiving game. And then Seattle is also not great against the run, so I think Jacobs can have a big day and then also potentially open things up for Jordan Love in the passing game.
Yeah, if the playoffs started today, this would be a first-round wild card game with the Seahawks as the 3 seed hosting the 6 seed Packers. And, you know, the way that the division standings look, it's not very far-fetched to say that this could be an actual playoff matchup. So this is certainly one to keep an eye on here. I do think it's noteworthy that the Packers are a favorite here on the road. Packers, I think the best thing that you could say about them is that they beat the teams they're supposed to. They get the teams that they need to beat, but they've struggled against the top dogs like the Eagles, and now they've lost to the Lions twice. And then when you look at the Seahawks on their end, credit to them, they find ways to win. And being here at 8-5, I'm not intimidated by them. If they were to play the Eagles in the playoff, or if they wound up playing the Lions or something, I don't think either of those top two teams are most likely going to be afraid in this one. I'm not buying into them as a legit contender still, but right now, sitting there at 8-5, they're in the driver's seat for that division. To say something good about the Packers, I do love their commitment to the run game and how well Josh Jacobs has been playing over the last month or so. I think this is a close down to the wire game, but I am going to take the Packers to squeak by on the road. But I will couple it with, I don't think I've been on the right side of a Seahawks game when they've been on the show yet. I think I've picked the wrong side each week. So going to be interesting, going to have a close eye on this one. There's some funner matchups with like Eagles, Steelers, Lions, Bills, but I think this is the one I'm most interested to see the outcome of. I'll go Packers 27, Seahawks 26, Seahawks +3, over 46.5. All right, dog of the day time. I'm going to go with the Dolphins +3. That is a 1:00 game, but they're playing at the Houston Texans this week, an indoor game. One of the biggest reasons I'm picking the Dolphins. They have to play this one indoor on the turf. They needed a win, too, to stay in the hunt. They still have a pretty big uphill climb to make the playoffs. You look at the Texans, the Colts are kind of catching up there, but they still have a little bit more room for error. The Dolphins, desperate game for them. I think that they can beat up on a Texans team here that's been struggling and has faced a lot of injuries in their own right.
Yeah, my dog of the day, I'm going Browns +4.5 against the Chiefs. Chiefs love close games, and you never really know what you'll get from Jameis. Maybe he's able to keep this one close.
Yeah, so the Chiefs are -198 in that one. I saw something last week. It was like, I agreed with it so much, but it was like the Chiefs should be -500 on the money line and then just like -3.5. Like they play these damn close games, but they always just find a way to win. It's pretty incredible. Lock of the week. I'm going to go with the Bills Lions over 53.5. Both these teams can put up points with the best of them. I think we see a shootout. I touched on number 1 and number 2 in the league in points this year per game. And then you look at the Lions, they've scored 30 or more in 6 of their games this year, the Bills have scored 30 or more in 10. The Lions have put up 50 on a couple of occasions. Bills coming off a 40-point performance last week. Lions a 34-point performance. I think we see a shootout in this one. Lions, Bills over 53.5 for my lock of the week.
My lock of the week, I'm going Commanders -7 against the Saints. Commanders coming off a bye. No Derek Carr for the Saints. I don't think the Saints are really going to be able to score a whole lot.
All right, and our touchdown scorers of the week, parlay them together. We hit last week with Josh Jacobs and David Montgomery. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb this week, plus 150 against the Panthers. We saw, when we talked about at the beginning, but we saw the Eagles had a lot of opportunities in the passing game that they just missed. I think this is a bad Panthers defense that the Eagles didn't take full advantage of last week. Going to be a lot of opportunities, and CeeDee Lamb had a really nice game last week against the Bengals. I think Cooper Rush has actually been not that bad. He's been a little bit better since that Eagles game where he really struggled. And it's a Panthers defense that I think's open up to some opportunities. So CeeDee Lamb plus 150 for my touchdown score this week.
I'm going Puka Nacua Thursday night plus 125. He scored in his last two. I think he makes it 3 in a row here.
All right, well, that will do it for NFL Big 5 games of the week. Week 15 already, pretty insane there. But, Kev, we will be talking next week from Australia. That'll be an interesting show if we can make it happen. But as always, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and we will talk next week.